Hello and welcome back to coverage here at GP Montreal. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Jacob Van Loon, and we've got Rich Holland and Lewis Spencer down in the feature match area. Looks like they're about ready to go. And we are underway here. Rich, of course, he has carried the mantle at times in certain circles as best limited player.
Yeah, I think there was a long period of time where people believed he was the best limited player in the world. He came in 9th place at a number
Is
of
this
limited
real,
PTs.
by the way? Torch carrier times 2 on turn 2. Bang, bang. Okay, well, I think we know where Lewis Spencer came down on the format, and it is not where you and I did. And let's see if it pays off, because here's Goblin Electromancer for Rich Holland, and that already threatens to hold off the entire board of Lewis.
Yeah, a really aggressive
what in
play.
the world?
If Richie stumbles here, he could find himself in a world of trouble.
Wow, this is super aggressive here from Lewis. He's going to sacrifice the Torch Courier, but you know what? Does open up a real attack here for him. 5 damage coming through, and no great situations here for Rich. Maybe forced to just block the Blade Instructor here.
Even so, though, Lewis, if Richie decides to block the Blade Instructor here, okay, so he's going to block the...
Yeah, that indicates that
Goblin.
he may have some way to deal with the Blade Instructor for cheap.
Yeah, even so, you know, Lewis now has used 3 cards
Yeah,
in addition to
forget
those
it.
3 lands. Richie, he's only used the Goblin Electromancer.
And there you go. Luminous Bonds to take care of the Blade Instructor. And Rich, I'm sure having learned this lesson early, if your opponent has a Mentor creature, Mentor is a very powerful ability. You really do want to deal with it as soon as possible to make cards like this Fresh Face Recruit a lot worse. You know, now all of a sudden, 2-1, okay, you can take a hit from that or put out a blocker. In this case, Arclight Phoenix is going to attack in the air. But if you use your removal spells liberally on their Mentor creatures, it makes all the rest of their creatures in their deck worse, and that usually can lead to a victory.
I absolutely agree. I think that's how you want to be playing against these Burrows decks.
Looks like we're going to see, by the way, sorry to interrupt you there, Jake, a Luminous Bonds from Lewis as well.
Yeah, a very good removal spell. Mm-hmm. Arclight Phoenix, a card with a lot of text on it, but when we're playing limited, it's really good to just think about it as a 3/2 flying haste for 4, which is great.
Which is a good card. Yeah, you'd play it. You just see that rarity symbol and you think, okay, we're going to be doing it, and you're kind of not. You have to cast 3 instants or sorceries to get it back from your graveyard, and that's that's a tall order to say the least. It is possible, but it is very difficult to do.
Yeah, Jumpstart helps still super hard.
Yeah. But that also means that Luminous Bonds is the perfect answer for it. In the meantime, Lewis gets to keep cracking in there with the Recruit, though you can't figure this is going to go well for very long as CD Watch Sphinx here from Rich Holland. Whoa, easy, buddy. There we go. Instead of untapping his lands, he tapped them. I guess on the back and forth tip here. Hunted Witness now for Lewis. That ain't it. That ain't it, Jake. That's what we say in the business, buddy. That ain't it. He plays out a 1/1 for 1. And a Swath Cutter Giant now from Rich Holland threatens to clean up this board and slam the door on this game for him. That is an unbelievable play at this point against Lewis's board of 2/1 toughness creatures. Swath Cutter Giant, whenever it attacks, gets to do 1 to all your opposing creatures, and you see Rich immediately say combat trigger. Bang, bang, kill that, kill that. And Hoenn knows that he has now completely turned the corner on this game. Okay, well, it looks like he's going to use a pump spell to save his Fresh Face Recruit, though it still doesn't actually have any blocks. And the downside to this play here, Jake, is that next turn this will happen again. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. It looks like he will actually end up blocking. Oh, no.
Yeah, maybe he was blocking with that and the token?
No.
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 Oh.
He just chump blocked. That would have been better. Also, it looks like he may have forgotten his Hunted Witness trigger here. So this one has well and truly come off the rails here for Lewis Spencer. Rich Holland putting on a show. And wow, a forest as well from Lewis Spencer. Perhaps indicating that he's got a little more going on in this deck than just a streamlined Boros build that Rich Holland certainly would have assumed that was what was going on here based on the Torch Courier ×2 start. But as it turns out, it's a Ledev champion that's going to get immediately locked down with Capture Sphere, and we're going to see a lethal attack here now from Hoenn. 5, 10, 12 is the number, Spencer. So, Lewis, I mean, we're going to have to go to game number 2. So that did not go well for Lewis. His primary game plan seems savagely outclassed at this point by Rich Hoenn's plan.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it can be tempting with, the Burrows cards with a lot of Mentor to play many creatures that have 1 power, because you think to yourself, I have these creatures that have Mentor, that have 2 power. I can make these smaller creatures scale. I can run away with the game. The problem is you end up with these draws. Your opponent just plays a 2/2, and it ends up blanking multiple cards of yours. You end up having to use a card like Luminous Bonds on something like a 2/2, and then suddenly the game just gets completely out of hand for you. You use too many cards too early. Rich has, been one of the people who's really brought Limited to the masses and kind of advertised Limited as a format that is so skill intensive. I think for a long time, both Sealed Deck and Draft had reputations as being, perhaps luck intensive. People thought, oh, well, what if I don't open the powerful card that the other people open? When in reality, these formats really are the truest tests of skill and are the formats where the best players have, the greatest edge, because the ability to look at a sealed deck and turn it into something beautiful is a really unique and rare skill. You can, I like to use the sculptor analogy here, where, a great sculptor could build a beautiful sculpture out of an ugly piece of stone, whereas somebody who is, not a talented sculptor could take the most beautiful piece of stone in the world and still not make a beautiful statue out of it.
Yeah, but sometimes you just open up a diamond anyway.
Hypothetically, sometimes you just, you
that
put
never
your pick
happens to
into
you,
it. And, I mean, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you have Tristani's Descendants and ×2. Looks like we're just getting deck lists in here now.
Nope.
No? Okay.
Oh, here's one. Got him. We're reading the deck list now, by the way.
Yes.
All right. No, I see what Lewis was going for here. Not sure I'm in love with it. Basically, he's just going for Naya colors, red, green, white, aggro. It's that simple. He's just trying to beat down with these colors, playing all of his removal and all of his good creatures and some of his bad creatures, if I'm honest, in these colors. So he's got like True Fire Captain in there. He's got the Ledev champion that we saw. He does have a Legion Guild Mage. It's a nice one. But he's running like Sumala Woodshaper, the 4-drop in Celestia, for example. But he's also running a Hammer Dropper.
I've liked Hammer Dropper.
Mm-hmm. It's just, there's kind of a tough sell on the mana on some of these. But he's Boros base. He's got 2 Boros Guildgate, 2 Celestia Guildgate, and a Sacred Foundry. So his mana is actually pretty good. He also has Flower Flourish, so he can turn white mana into green if he needs to. So, yeah.
So I've got some bad news for Lewis here. Rich has 2 copies of Direct Current and a Deafening Clarion, which seem pretty good against an aggressive opponent.
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yeah, so Rich seems to be playing, his best cards for the most part. He had the option of splashing things like Price of Fame, chose not to. But some interesting choices here on Rich's end. Rich is a Jeskai deck, and Tajik, Legion's Edge, actually in his sideboard.
Woo.
Not in the main deck. He's only playing 3 planes. White is more of a splash for him for Luminous Bonds and Deafening Clarion. It doesn't seem, and a single copy of Justice Strike and Swath Cutter Giant. So white, while not necessarily a splash, it is a color. It's not the kind of thing he can expect to have on turn 3 with any level of consistency.
Looks like Rich is on 6 cards here. Let's get the card on top, and we are going to be underway. Again, another 1-drop here for Spencer. Perhaps a mulligan from Hoenn can open up a door for Lewis's early cards to get in for some damage before they get trumped by the bigger creatures and removal spells from Hoenn. Hunted Witness draws first blood here, so there's a good start. Looks like it may be a tap land, though. A little awkward here for Spencer with all of his 1-drops. He's trying to play 3 colors pretty much across the board. His green is his splash, and it is the lesser color by a fair bit, but he is trying to be a curve-out deck as well, and it's a little bit at odds. But this Hunted Witness once again gets in the red zone, and what do we have on turn 3 here for Spencer? Well, there you go. Blade Instructor, go. So the pressure is well and truly on Hoenn here. He's got to come up with something to block or do this. Luminous Bonds on the Instructor.
Yeah, and this is what you talked about last game. As long as you're using your removal spells aggressively on these Mentor creatures, then a card like Hunted Witness is kind of a card you can ignore.
You can totally ignore it.
It's going to take 20 turns for that to really matter.
Right. Here's Rock Charger now from Spencer, a very good card. Though, again, even with the Hunted Witness, it's not going to do a whole lot. And Hoenn can take a turn to just play Is It Locket before passing the turn back to Spencer.
And Rock Charger, the kind of card that you really want to pair alongside a Mentor creature. Because it only has 1 power, it's very easy to grow this, and because it gives the Mentor creature flying, it's very easy to have good attacks with your Mentor creatures.
Torch Courier is going to hit the battlefield as well, and it's even going to get flying thanks to the Rock Charger. So a little attack for 3. The downside here, though, of course, is that Spencer has 3 creatures and 3 power total in his aggressive deck. He's giving Hoenn a lot of time to set up. And there we go, City Watch Sphinx here on turn number 5 for Hoenn. That's a big stop sign for Spencer. He's got to have an answer for it. Boy, that Illuminous Bonds like he had in game 1 would be perfect here.
Yeah, he really wants to have some way to punish Rich for using 6 mana to make 1 body. He's trying to go wide.
Nope, he's got Fresh Face Recruit and pass a turn back to Hoenn, so Hoenn can breathe a sigh of relief. One card that I did notice, by the way, in Lewis Spencer's main deck, he's got Cosmotronic Wave in his main. And if we end up,
well then.
Deafening Clarion now from Rich Holland is going to get full value, wiping the board. Yeah, that Rock Charger too there, Lewis. That's only got 3 toughness. And he's going to give his City Watch Sphinx lifelink for perhaps an unassailable turn of events in Hoenn's direction.
Yeah,
this has just been nasty, by the way. First it was Swath Cutter Giant in game 1, just getting the cool 3-for-1. Now it's Deafening Clarion, just effectively ending the game in one fell swoop here.
Yeah, and when you're playing that many creatures that have, only 1 power, a card like Deafening Clarion is just such a nightmare, because now Lewis has very little gas left, despite only having access to 3 lands. And, he just got 3-for-1 essentially by that card. Rich also used it to pad his life total. I think that's the very best card that somebody could have against Lewis in this sealed format.
Yeah, you pointed it out when you saw it on the deck list, and yikes. That little wish came true for Rich Holland. He's got Command the Storm as well. Though at this point, that's just icing on the cake for Rich Holland, because this has been an absolute bloodbath in his favor. He's now attacking for 7, putting Lewis on a 2-turn clock. Land number 4 still hasn't even hit the battlefield for Lewis either. But I feel like at this point it's irrelevant.
Legion Guildmage is a nice one.
Yeah, it was. Maniacal Rage to try to race is a last-ditch effort now from Spencer. The problem is that even with the attack, he's still in range, so he has to just sit back. The problem with that is that the Sphinx is also lethal on its own. And we're going to see radical idea here from Hoenn, but it is not relevant at this point as he gets to just attack in and call this thing good. Remember, Maniacal Rage makes it so your creature can't block. So that was an absolute thrashing there. A really tough matchup for Lewis Spencer. He tried to go low with his seal deck. He tried to go under the more powerful decks. And Rich Holland kind of found a middle ground. This isn't the greediest build that he could have put together. You're an advocate for jamming every gate and every powerful card you can. He took that and went just down a notch. He's base one guild, and then he's splashing for another color. But it looks like he's got a pretty good range of threats and answers as a result. And that is exactly what Lewis Spencer does not want to see as the low to the ground aggro deck. You just can't have an opponent that is one step slower than you, but much more powerful.
Yeah, and I really like what Richie did with this seal deck. Looking at the deck list here, it seems like he found a way to really have a lot of game against the most controlling opponents. You know, he has a lot of hard counter magic in his main deck. He has a lot of good mid-range threats. He has like a good top end also with things like the Sphinx. Against aggressive decks, obviously having 2 copies of Direct Current, having a Deafening Clarion, that's going to make things just a nightmare for people who are trying to flood the board with Selesnya or Burrows.
And it was, in fact, a nightmare for his opponent. So Rich Holland moves on, staying undefeated. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll have Time Walk here from Montreal. Don't you go anywhere.